organised person, to be honest. So I'm like a. You're probably the same, actually. Every time I've ever done like a presentation, because for work I've had to do presentations sometimes to like 4,000 or 5,000 people at Microsoft and Google and various places, and people always say to me, "Oh, can we get your presentation? You know, get it all set up." And I turn up and I'm like, well, I'm just going to talk. Yeah, because whenever I prepare something, I lose what I'm trying to say. I'm trying to memorize things. I just can't do it. I have to just turn up and get on with it. But welcome, Andy, Snow Camp Europe, onto my new podcast that I've been doing. I don't know if I've actually said this, but the only reason I ever started this podcast is because every single human being that I know is absolutely sick and tired of me talking about skiing. And it was the only possible way that I had to like let myself talk about skiing without everyone leaving the room. So that's how we got here on my end.
So basically, you get to sit in your room talking to a camera about skiing, whether people are watching or not, but it means you don't annoy the people around you.
Yeah, that's basically it. Yeah.
Good stuff.
Yeah, because otherwise I felt this consistent need that I'm in the car with my wife, I'm talking about skiing. I'm having a dad-daughter day, I'm talking to my little girl about skiing. I'm out with my friends, I'm talking about skiing. And a lot of them have just sat me down on a quite a serious basis and said, we think there's a problem. Whether you agree or not, the problem is massively affecting us. So you're going to have to cut it out. So I thought, at least I can just talk to the camera and it lets it out of my system and I'm not pissing anybody off.
Yeah.
And I've even said to my friends, have you ever listened to any of my podcasts? They're like, no. Straight up. I said to my wife, ever listen to the podcast? She said, no.
They're not your audience, mate. They're not your audience.
No. So there you go. But yeah, obviously I have gone through before how I met you and I came over to the Kitzsteinhorn in October, which actually now is not looking that far away. So I'm hoping we get that same downpour last time, because I remember last year every day I was like frantically looking at the weather, watching all the webcams, watching everything come in, which I actually sadly find quite exciting as the weather changes. And I remember your video came up and it was, I think you were stood on your balcony, and you just had like this insane downpour. I think it was late September, maybe even early October.
Yeah.
And I remember thinking, right, that's it, I'm going there, there's loads of snow. And Jason, who I know really well, he obviously worked with you for a little while and he was like, yeah, go and see Andy, he's over there, it's great over there, you'll love it.
Yeah. It was funny because it was it the second or third week in October that you came over?
I think it was the third week. Yeah, I'm pretty sure it was the third week. I've probably got it somewhere written down, but I'm pretty sure it's the third week.
It only opened a couple of days earlier, I think, and obviously the day we skied, we had shocking conditions with the snow and the visibility and the cold and whatever. But it's interesting because this year they're planning to be open at the start of October. So I would say that's going to be the first Saturday of October, because they've managed to store and produce so much snow that they can definitely get it open. I don't know when the first Saturday of October is. Near the beginning, is it? Let me have a quick look. But I would guess that's going to be the opening day. So Saturday the 4th of October, I would expect it's going to be opening day. And that'll be with all of the snow that they've farmed and covered up for the summer. So October's looking good without any snow. And the thing is as well, if you look at the glacier now, the snow, even though we've got these incredible temperatures like you've got in the UK, the snow up there is fantastic. The amount on the main slopes, because we had a lot of snowfall at the beginning of June, only like 3 weeks ago. So that's also kind of refreshed it. So it's looking pretty good. Now, we might lose a lot more through July and August if these temperatures can keep going. But at the moment, it's quite good up there.
Yeah, because I remember last time on the second day that I was there, they had all the big trucks and the cats bringing the snow over, and they were kind of forcefully finishing the connection between like the glacier and the next station down.
To the Alpen Centre, wasn't it?
Yeah, that's right, Alpine
Yeah,
Centre. Yeah.
yeah, they were
Um,
pushing it all onto that blue road and then down. Yeah, and that again, it's like, so we were only skiing to the bottom of what would be the glacier area, and then we came down in the lift at lunchtime to go to the
that's
Alpine.
right. Yeah.
Yeah. So we must have been very early in that opening week, and then yeah, they would have used the stored snow to get that open by the weekend. And I think you left on like a Thursday or a Friday, right?
Yeah, yeah, no, it was the Friday because it was the day before the weekend, so they were clearly rushing to get that whole thing done for their first weekend.
Exactly. Yeah, first
Uh,
busy weekend.
yeah, but it was quite incredible, really, because the day that I was there with you, not much of that was connected at all, if anything. And then when I got up there the next morning and I looked, it was like, wow! All of a sudden they've created all of these
Yeah,
slopes, and
yeah,
it hadn't snowed or anything, so they clearly had just unwrapped all of the snow that they stored
yeah.
and just brought it all the way down, got it open, and you'd think it would be absolutely horrific, but it was not really that different to the snow that was up higher,
Mm,
other than the fact it probably wasn't quite as groomed as well because of they'd had to rush it together. But it was pretty amazing, really, how quickly they managed to get that whole thing up and running.
yeah. I think again, because the amount of snow they've got now, as long as October isn't like 25, 30 degrees, um, I would expect they'll be able to open the main glacier area and the run down to the Alpine Centre from the beginning with the amount of snow they've got. Because
Wow.
there was also they've built or they've installed an extra 8 cannons at the bottom of the area we were skiing, and then another 4 or 5 at the very, very top, which are there only to make snow to be stored. So all winter long, they were producing snow at 3,000 meters that was then being piled up. So there was piston bullies and JCBs every day of the winter moving that snow, which is now the cover some of the covered depots, and that there's a massive amount of snow and a stupid amount. I'm hoping to do a podcast with one of the snowmakers, a guy called Philip. I think he's on holiday at the moment, and he's going to tell us all about it. But there is a
Yeah.
phenomenal amount of snow because I say they've now built cannons purely to produce snow for the next winter, which is bonkers.
Yeah, it's amazing. It really is amazing because obviously everyone's aware that there is a change in the weather and the things that they're doing to try and alleviate that. I don't think a lot of it even gets noticed, but even when I was in France at some point last year, we was at one of the really tiny little unknown resorts outside of the Alps, and they had a dedicated field that had 5 or 6 snow cannons in that was just creating these huge mounds of snow, and then
Mhm.
they must pick that up and take it over to the actual ski slope. So it's quite cool and clever that they've got all of those things going on. But I guess from a sort of uh, glacier perspective, October is the typical sort of date when that sort of stuff kicks off, is it usually?
Yeah, they always try and get the Kitzsteinhorn open for October. A couple of years ago, it didn't happen. It was the first time I think ever that it hadn't opened in October, and it was they took the blankets off the snow, and then they noticed we were about to get 2 weeks of warm weather, and they didn't put the blankets back on, and that snow melted, so they had no snow to push out onto the glacier. So there was
Uh,
raw. It went crazy. All the hotels were kicking off with the lift company, and unfortunately, Thomas, who I did a podcast with a couple of weeks ago, is the CEO. It was his first winter, so he came
oh,
over. He'd taken over at the end of the last winter, and it was his first winter, and everybody was blaming him as the new CEO for this catastrophic balls up,
shit.
because everything they'd stored had gone. So we had to
Oh,
wait for natural snow, and that natural snow didn't come. I think we eventually opened on something like the 4th or the 6th of November that year. Now, as I said to him when I saw him a few weeks ago, I was quite happy because I didn't want to start work in October. You know,
yeah,
I wanted
yeah,
to
for
weeks
sure.
holiday. But this year, as I say, they've made it's not going to happen again, and they've also I believe there's an agreement now where they have to give the opening date well in advance, and it has to be that date because the hotels basically said we are not going to reopen unless you're open because
Oh,
there's no and the thing is when they do reopen in October, when the Kitzsteinhorn reopens in October, not all of the hotels open anyway. It will be one or two hotels that typically stay open all year anyway, and then one or two of the ones that do have the in between seasons off, they will open up, and then a few of the pensions will open up, and a lot of the private apartments will be open. But it's not like on the 4th of October everything in Kaprun opens, because it doesn't, because there is still not enough business until not even till start of December to warrant them all being open. So some bars, some restaurants will still be closed, lots of hotels will still be closed, and then they'll start to gradually open as we go through November into December. Some of them won't even open until the 18th of December, to be honest.
Yeah.
Because even though, and I think when you were here and we were up there, we were like two of not a lot of people on that day. We had things to ourselves pretty much. And when we went in for lunch, we sat in an empty restaurant. So October it's weekends. It's weekends, it's locals, there's some race teams up there. The ski instructor courses start in November. So certain hotels open to house those trainee ski instructors. And again, it's race teams. The army will be over, the RAF will be over, the German army will be here, and things like that on training courses in November. It's not really until the week before Christmas that the tourism season starts. And this is the same everywhere, whether you've got a glacier or not. And this is what's quite interesting, is this is what people who are tourist skiers, they don't see. They think it's always happening, where in between seasons, these villages are empty. Everything's closed. Restaurants are closed, bars are closed. We're now what? We're at the end of June when we're recording this on the 30th of June.
Yeah, 30th of June.
There is two of the top restaurants in Kaprun are still not yet open for the summer. They're opening next week, end of next week.
Wow.
They've been closed since the Tuesday after Easter Monday, because that's how much the business dips in the in-between seasons,
Yeah, it's actually very similar because in Zermatt, because when I can't remember if it was last year or the year before. I think it was last year. I went to Zermatt in May, at the end of May actually, for my birthday. And when we got there, everything was shut. Like not well, 10% of the stuff might have been open, but all the hotels were shut, all the restaurants were shut, give or take.
Yeah.
All the ski shops were even shut. Even the ski shops were shut. And I thought, wow, what is going on here? Because it was still quite busy there, but there was nothing open at all. And I didn't realise that they basically from maybe the beginning of May, I think it is. I think it's actually about the 5th of May. They shut down the main slopes, all the way through till about mid-July when they start to have the summer season. Everything is shut. And then when I went there, I think it was the end of September, beginning of October, almost the same thing. Not quite as quiet, but almost the same thing. And then that's because they shut down like beginning of September and they don't open again until late October, early November. So I guess that's like the sort of like glacier season, I guess, something like that.
But when you were in Hintertux in May, Hintertux must have been quiet as well, eh?
Well, it's funny actually because I can't remember the dates. When I was there in April, very late April, it was really busy, like really, really busy. And when I went there in May, no, it was dead. Yeah, absolutely dead.
And like the village was empty, right?
Yeah. Well, have you been to Hintertux?
No.
It's a very strange setup there because not necessarily in a bad way, but just different. Basically, the Hintertux area itself, at the bottom of it, there's this tiny, tiny little village. And I mean, like, I don't know, 2 bars, a ski shop and a restaurant, something like that, and maybe 2 hotels. Yeah. It's like this tiny little isolated area. And then you have the lift that goes up. But then about, I don't know, probably 700-800 yards down the road, probably not even a mile, you have Tux itself, which is not really that much bigger. There's probably 3 hotels, a couple of ski shops. I don't even think there's a restaurant there, maybe like a little co-op or something. Yeah. And then every, I don't know, 2-3 miles, there's like a village along this one road that has a ski town. Yeah. And each individual one has got like its own little ski town, but they're all very, very small places, like very, very small, Whereas when you go, obviously, well, not obviously, but if you haven't been to like Kaprun and Zell they're quite big places, aren't they? They're not what I would consider small.
Yeah,
Um,
Kaprun's actually. I've been here now 13 years, and Kaprun's grown a lot in 13 years.
yeah,
And
I
if you
bet. Yeah.
look at the glacier opened in 1965, and if you look at some of
Wow.
the photos of 1965 Kaprun, it's entirely different than it is now. And I think again, a lot of these areas, obviously, tourism is one of the main industries in these ski villages. And without tourism, there'd still just be half a dozen farms and a church. But Kaprun, obviously, the glacier opened in 1965. We've got this massive power station which supplies a serious amount of electricity to a massive area of Pinzgau and into Pongau. Above that, to the left of the glacier, we've got these massive hydro dams, two big dams. That brought in money and growth to Kaprun as well. So Hintertux has got that glacier. I don't know what else Hintertux has got. So at the bottom of Hintertux is that really tiny little village. Here we've got glacier, hydro dams, hydropower stations, massive electricity grid, not a substation, but a station that then
Yeah,
feeds
because you go. That's where
stations
you go
around.
past, isn't it? On the way up to the
Yeah,
Kitzsteinhorn from
yeah.
Kaprun. Yeah, because in fact, I tell you what. Let's actually go back just a little bit. So, just explain exactly like what the setup is in Kaprun, because we've spoke about like three areas. We spoke about the Kitzsteinhorn, Zell and Kaprun. Just give like a
Mhm.
really brief summary about what that is, that collection, and if there's anything else that's involved in it.
Yeah, okay. So you've got the village of Kaprun, and as I just said, we got the power, we got the hydroelectricity, all of that brought wealth to Kaprun. And in 1965, the Kitzsteinhorn Glacier opened for skiing. The first lifts were running up there for skiing. In Kaprun, we've also got another mountain called the Maiskoga, which they refer to as the family mountain. Really good ski area, open in the main season. We actually prefer to ski on that when it's open than go to the glacier because obviously you've got to trek to the glacier. And
Yeah,
then neighbouring is Zellamzee. Now Zellamzee it's a really popular resort with English and Irish people because it was one of the first Austrian resorts to appear in package holiday brochures. So when the likes of Crystal started doing ski holidays, and you had the likes of Thompson's and all of the other Nielsen's and all of these package holiday companies that popped up in the 70s, LMZ was one of the first Austrian resorts. So very popular with the English and the Irish. And obviously the ski area of Zell, Schmitten, which has been developed over the year, is a different ski area to the glacier. And then we've got the Maiskoga, which is a different area to ZLMZ. So ZLMZ up to 2,000 meters true line skiing. Maiskoga up to about 1,800 meters true line skiing. Glacier out of the village into the valley, ski area from about 1,800 meters to 3,000 meters. And then the wider picture is all of those three are linked on the same lift pass, but they're also linked with Saalbach Hinterglemm, Leogang, Fieberbrunn, and Saalbach Hinterglemm, Leogang, Fieberbrunn. That's it. Yeah. So it's one of the biggest ski areas. The lift pass covers one of the biggest ski areas in Austria and one of the biggest skiers in Europe. Now they're not all interconnected by lift. The Maiskogel and the glacier are connected by lift, but ZLMZ is not connected by lift, so it's connected by bus. And then ZLMZ is almost connected to Saalbach. You can ski to Saalbach, and then obviously Hinterglemm, Leogang, Fieberbrunn are all interconnected. So it's a very big area. And obviously, when you came over in the October, we did 2 days on the glacier because that was only the glacier that was open. Obviously,
yeah.
if you came in the main season, you would get to ski Zell, you would get to see Saalbach, you go down to Leogang, you get to ski the lot, you know. So it's one of the major ski areas in Austria. Um, and a lot of people know Kaprun because of the fire. There was a fire in, I think it was 2000, on the 11th of October. It was opening day, and there used to be a funicular train that went up to the Alpen Centre, and it had just been renewed. The trains themselves, there were new trains, and there was no heating installed in the trains. So they retrofitted heaters in the driver's cabin. And on the very first day, on one of the very first journeys, there was a hydraulic fluid leak that went onto one of these retrofitted heaters. And there was this massive fire in the tunnel. Top of my head, 146 deaths and,
No.
and 14 survivors. It was the biggest loss of life outside of wartime in Austria at the time. I think it still probably is. And the only reason those people survived is there was a firefighter in the train who told them to walk down the tunnel, not up the tunnel, because the smoke traveled up. And then there was a couple of people in the Alpen Center that actually died who were in the toilets.
Wow.
Smoke just flew up the tunnel. So a lot of people will remember that, and that they will know Kaprun because of that. But I say this whole area, Kaprun, LMZ, Saubach, Hinterglen, is one of the big tourism areas, both summer and winter.
Yeah. So is the Maisgogel, is that what you would consider like the Kaprun ski area?
Yeah. Although we say when we refer to Kaprun, we refer to Kaprun and the glacier. So it's
okay.
Kitzsteinhorn is Kaprun.
Okay. Yeah.
But the Kaprun ski area is the Maisgogel. We've also got another little slope which we refer to as the Dutch glacier, which is in the village opposite the apartment you stayed in, which is the like the teaching area.
Yeah.
Two very long flat slopes. Then you got the Maisgogel, which has got a bit of everything on it. It's got some good off-piste, get some good bumps on it. It's got from top to bottom, it's quite long. I don't know how many kilometers it is, but it's a pretty long run. You've got beginner slopes at the mid station, so snowshore. You've got a good steep black. You've got some very nice windy blues that come down, which are basically roads in the summer. So there's a little bit of everything on there. Hence, they call it the family mountain. And as I say, we love skiing on the Maisgogel. The Maisgogel is fantastic in the winter, and it saves you going to the glacier. But if conditions are soft and slushy and it's a bit warm and it's not great on the Maisgogel, then the big advantage is going to the glacier, because the snow is always the texture, the temperature, and the depth of the snow is always fantastic. You don't get a bad day on the glacier.
You ski? I can't remember. Can you ski from the? I don't think you can, but you can't ski from the glacier to the Maisgogel.
No, they've connected it with the lift, the K connection lift, which is a fantastic piece of engineering, and the views from it are mega. And again, it wasn't open when you were here. And what I always say to people is, get the bus to the glacier, ski the glacier, take the lift back to the Maisgogel, and ski down the Maisgogel. In the spring, ski halfway down and then take the lift because it gets a bit slushy at the bottom. So you can't ski it, but it's connected.
Right,
so,
okay.
If you're on the glacier and in the afternoon you come across the connection, you can then ski down into the village. And they now class Kaprun as a ski in, ski out resort now, because you can do that all the way from the glacier. But you can't ski across. It's pretty treacherous terrain where the lift follows a ridge line, basically. There was something like 43 avalanche zones they had to avoid when building the lift.
Wow.
The lift's amazing. The lift's absolutely amazing.
And then for those that don't know, Zell-am-Zee is a town that's on a beautiful big lake, isn't it?
Mm-hmm.
I've not obviously not skied those two areas yet outside of the glacier, but when you're skiing the Kaprun area, the Maisgogel and the Zell-am-Zee resort area, can you see the lake as you're coming down the slopes?
You can see the lake off the Maisgogel. You can see the lake off the glacier. Oh, wow. You can see that. Obviously, when we were on the glacier, you couldn't see nothing. But you can see the lake from the glacier, from the Maisgogel, and there are areas on the Schmittenhohe where you can't see the lake, but there are areas where you really can see, and the view is absolutely fantastic.
Because that's quite unique, isn't it? To be able to ski like above a lake. I'm trying to think somewhere else. I think there's I can't remember the ski resort that's over Lake Annecy, but there's that kind of small ski resort over. No, I can't remember what it's called. It's quite a small one in France.
Over a lake.
Yeah, it's I'll think of it in a minute. But when you actually do go to Zell, it's a beautiful place to walk around, and they've got a beautiful village. Quite different actually to Kaprun. Kaprun is almost like a quite a modern ski village, I would say. Whereas Zell feels like more like you're in like an almost like an old English town on a lake. That feels
Yeah.
that's kind of the vibe.
Zell is a town, Kaprun is a village, in the way of
Right.
classification. And it is, you got the cobbled street. Oh, well, we got a little bit of a cobbled area in Kaprun as well, me. But you got your cobbled streets intertwining narrower streets. Um, again, it's like, it's funny that you kind of referenced Kaprun as a modern place. Again, 13 years ago, most of the buildings didn't look like they look now.
Yeah.
And it's funny because if you remember the black and pink hotel, Kapoom,
Yes.
yeah?
Yeah.
So that's now being turned into what we knew it was going to be turned into, which is this four-star GL hotel.
Wow.
And what they're doing is, we thought they were going to rip it down, but they're not ripping it down. They've gutted it. They've gutted the whole thing inside, but the outside is now being clad in wood. So to somebody who comes into Capron who's never seen that building, they're going to go, "Wow, look at that new hotel!" Right? But to the people who know that building has just been clad in wood, yes,
Yeah.
it's going to look more modern in an Alpine style, but it's the same building that's been there for 30, 40 years. And most
Yeah.
of the buildings in Capron, there are a lot of new builds, but a lot of them, what they do here is they'll take the old house, they'll take the windows out, the insulating blocks on the outside. They'll then render it. They'll put new windows in, paint it, put a new roof on it. Looks like a new house.
Yeah.
Looks like a new build. Where in fact, it's been there for 70, 80 years. You know,
Yeah.
and a
Yeah.
lot
Because
of
I
the buildings.
when I was sort of driving around Capron because I hired a car, um, yeah, it does look like relatively modern. In fact, I'll tell you what reminded me of it. Oh God, I've forgotten the name. Meerhofen. Have you ever been there? So
I've driven to it, but I've never been in it.
yeah, the road, basically the road that I was talking about that goes all the way up to Hintertux, the first sort of ski resort that I know of anyway on that road, of which there's five, six, seven, all on that Zillertal pass, is
Yeah,
Meerhofen, which I think is the biggest one. But the town there is quite similar to Kaprun. It's got, because even Kaprun, if I remember, you have that little sort of street of restaurants as well, just opposite the big ski shop, if I remember. There's quite a few nice little restaurants as
yeah,
you go up that sort. I think it's up a hill almost. Yeah,
yes,
it's kind of similar to that in Meerhofen. And one of the good things about Kaprun is that you have such a blend of different things because you've got Kaprun itself, which is yeah, what I would sort of look at as like a fairly modern, quite nice, nice restaurants, good vibe, a lot of good shops kind of place. But then you have Zell, which is almost something from the past on a beautiful lake, quite contrasting.
yeah,
And then above everything, obviously, you can go up to the Kitzsteinhorn skiing. So for like a few of my friends, I've sent over there 5 or 6 friends now. They all really liked it because of the diversity of the different types of places. Like one day they can be in Kaprun, 10 minutes from there they're in Zell, and then on top of that, even if they've skied both of those areas, you can go up to the Kitzsteinhorn or drive, what is it, 10, 15 minutes to Saalbach.
yeah,
Um, and you've got quite a lot of different things that you can do in quite a short period of time. And
yeah,
obviously, being Austrian, all the infrastructure is very good. You know, I know it gets a bit busy on the roads around Zell, but for the most part, it's pretty easy to get around. So I think it's quite a good place to go for anyone really, because you've got quite just such a diversity of different places. And even if you're not someone like me, all I think about is skiing. Like I get up early in the morning, I ski from the second it opens till I'm literally getting kicked off by the you know, the people who look after it all. And then I get home and because I've skied all day and I haven't stopped, I can't even think about doing anything in the evenings because I'm exhausted. But for normal human beings like my friends, you know, they do a bit of skiing in the day and then of the evening they like to go around the town, have a drink, have a meal, you know, all that kind of stuff. So there, it's great because it's almost like you're getting multiple places for one.
yeah. That's like with the camps. We aim, especially the January and March camp. We aim to take people. We ski to Maeskogel. We start on the Maeskogel on the Sunday if the conditions are good. we go to Zellamsee. We probably go to Zell once or twice. We go to Sailback. We ski Sailback into Glen, or we ski Sailback Leogang, depending on conditions, and then we go to the glacier. So they get 4 or 5 ski areas within the week. And I say the transport is as slick as can be. What we don't currently do is we don't go out in an evening in Zell, which is something that we might start doing, because again, there is a different offering in Zell than there is in Kaprun. And again, when you were in October, a lot of things were closed, so you probably didn't get inside many of the restaurants or bars. But it's what, when people are looking for ski holidays, and I've just done a new email sequence, which I'll do in a second. When people are looking for ski holidays, one of the main things they look at is kilometers of piste. And if you look at Kaprun as a standalone place, you think it's not got much skiing. And if you look at a map of the glacier, you go, ooh, that's a small area. But you know yourself, once you get up there and you get off that lift, you go, huge.
Yeah,
right?
yeah,
Now,
it's vast.
would you want to ski the glacier 10 days in a row if you're a good skier? Possibly not, unless you were interested in the off-piste and a bit of powder if we had it. Because yes, there is limited piste skiing, but the piste skiing that is there is extremely good. And because it's a glacier and there are no trees, if you're not on the piste, you are in the off-piste. And the expanse of the off-piste is massive. Yeah, if you look at the Maeskogel as a standalone mountain, 15 kilometers of piste, I think it is. Again, for an advanced skier, you're not going to want to ski that every day of the week. So no, so go to Zell, where there's, I don't know how many kilometers of ski, of piste. Jump on the bus or get in your car and go to Sailback, one of the biggest ski areas there is. And the thing is, people don't look at the wider picture when they're picking a resort. They look at the resort and the information on that page. If you go to Crystal Brochure, Kaprun ski area, glacier, it'll say it's near Zellamsee, but it won't be do a day here, do 2 days there, do 2 days there, and do 1 day in Sailback. And that's part of the Snow Camps kind of Snow Camps Europe service and ethos, is making sure people know what there is and where to go and when to go. And
Yeah,
that's that email sequence that I've just started. It's literally been launched this week. I've done a 30-day email sequence where if you sign up, it will give you an email every day to make booking and planning your next holiday so much easier. We talk about how to pick the country, and we don't just talk about Austria. How to pick the country, how to pick the resort, how to pick the right accommodation, whether you want a hotel, an apartment, a pension, a chalet. We talk about ski rental, we talk about ski schools, we talk about how to select a ski teacher and not just go and book a lesson. It's 30 days of emails. Every day you get an email in your inbox, take you through the whole booking system of a ski holiday. And it talks about this. Don't just look at the kilometers of piste. You know, I know a resort where there's something like 13 kilometers of piste. It's one of the best ski areas I've ever been to. Right?
yeah,
And you can ski there for 7 days, especially if you are still learning to ski, because there is so much differing terrain, there's so much good off-piste, and it always has good snow. I've never known it not to have bad snow, because where it sits up on a pass in a very V-shaped valley with a massive wall of mountain, the clouds come and they dump their guts and then they go. And it's a little
yeah,
bit Rauris. It's a bit like Rauris. Rauris is a small area with phenomenal snow because of the way the valley is shaped. And people need to start looking at how they book their holidays slightly different. Obviously, someone booking a holiday for the first time, they only know what they know from the brochure or the website. Yeah. But again, this is why this is one of the reasons Snow Camp started and why we do what we do, how we do it.
yeah. Well, I must admit, because when where I've only started skiing recently, understanding where to go, how to get there, all of the different travel implications, where to get your ticket from, how far is it from your hotel to the ski area? Can you walk? Can you ski? Do you have to get a bus? Oh, there is a lot involved in it. Like, there is a real lot involved in it. And actually, one of the huge benefits of going to Austria, I found over the other European places, for the most part, is actually a lot to do with that. Because if you go to, let's say you go to like Three Valleys or Val d'Isère, Zermatt, any of these places, 99% of them actually in the Alps, the European, the French and Swiss Alps, there's a lot of travel involved, and the connections aren't great. Even Zermatt, which obviously the Swiss have got everything nailed down, like they do it like no one else does it. Everything is immaculate. The travel is to the second, like everything is incredible. But even to get to Zermatt, you've got to fly into Geneva, and then it's a 4 hour train to Zermatt. You only have to change once, and don't get me wrong, the trains, they're immaculate, they're perfect, they're on time. They even have like windows at the top so you can see the mountains. Like they're Swiss. Everything has been thought of, but that's a long journey, like a really long journey, especially if you want to go for only. A lot of people go for 4 or 5 days. When you go to Kaprun and actually Hintertux as well, you fly into the airport. Now, depending on what airport you go to, because there are multiple choices, but if you can get a ticket to the local airports, it's an hour, pretty much, give or take 20 minutes. It's an hour in a car or on a train, or even on a bus, maybe not even that much longer. Which I think actually, when you start saying, "Oh, it's an hour instead of 3 or 4 hours," that adds almost a whole extra day of skiing onto your holiday. Because even if you go to Three Valleys, you would think that the Three Valleys would have the best connected travel across Europe. You'd think it would be incredible. It's not. It's absolutely horrific because you have to fly into Geneva. The trains are so long-winded, and they don't actually go to any of the Three Valley resorts. They don't go there. So when you want to go to even like Bride-le-Ban, which is right the way down the bottom, and not even you can't even ski into it. You've got to stop. I can't remember the name of the town now, but you've got to stop a good half an hour drive or so before you get to there, and then you've got to get a connection into one of the Three Valley areas. So you've got probably a 3 to 4 hour train. Apologies if these are out by an hour or so, but give or take 3 or 4 hour train, and then from there you've then got to get a bus or some kind of transport to the actual resort itself. Now, if you're going to like Val Thorens, you've got quite a trek. If you're going to Courchevel or Meribel, it's a little bit closer, or one of the other smaller places. But that's a long lot of travel. Whereas when you go to Hintertux or Kaprun, they're actually quite similar in terms of the distance. If you get to the closest airport, it's just an hour.
It's funny because a lot of people, when people look at weekend skiing, they always look at France. And a lot of people do weekend skiing in Morzine. Now, I'm quite vocal about my thoughts on Morzine and Avoriaz. We don't need to do that today, but why people go weekend skiing in Morzine, I do not know. Because the transfer is long. And when people are asking on Facebook pages, like, where can I go for a weekend? Go to Lofa, go to Flachau, go to Wagram, go to Altenmark. They're all within 45 minutes of Salzburg Airport.
Yeah.
Even if you take a public bus, you're going to be there quicker than a taxi van or whatever you're in from your French airport to Morzine. And once you get here, it'll be cheaper and it'll be nicer.
Yeah. It's way cheaper. Yeah, Austria is sort of in the middle, I'd say, of like Italian prices and French prices. It's probably like almost bang in the middle. Because Italy's like ridiculously cheap. I can't believe how cheap Italy is when you go there.
We're going to Italy. We've got a camp in Italy next January, and I've not been to the Salaronda area for a long time, and I'm interested to see how different it is compared to Kaprun, this area. Obviously, we've got more expensive areas in Austria. St. Anton's not cheap. Ischgl cheap. To be honest, we're starting to say that Kaprun and Zalmzee aren't that cheap anymore because of the price of certain things. But it's cheaper than it is in France, I tell you. In France.
But yeah, I think for a long weekend or a weekend, I mean a week as well, because of what we spoke about earlier with the diversity of the different places you can go to. Like, I'm not just talking about the shorter trips. It's such a great place to go, and that ability to get from the airport to your town very, very quickly, I think is hugely beneficial, because not only that, those small airports, what's the Salzburg, isn't it, for Kaprun?
Yeah.
Yeah, and then what's the one for Hintertux? I can't remember the name of it.
Innsbruck, probably.
What one
Innsbruck?
was it? Yeah,
Innsbruck?
Innsbruck. Sorry, yeah, because you can go to Munich as well, but that's a whole longer thing. But
Yeah.
yeah, when I flew to Innsbruck and Salzburg, these places they're like tiny little airports. So you are off the plane and you're out the other side before you can blink. There's no waiting for this, waiting for that. You are literally off the plane, through customs, got your luggage, and you're in the car or whatever it is inside. I reckon maybe 15, 20 minutes after you land. Whereas obviously, if you go to Geneva or any of these other places, it's not that quick. No way is it that quick. And actually, to get a car in Geneva, sometimes you have to. It's an absolute nightmare to hire a car there. So that whole ability to literally jump on a plane, rock up, and you're in your resort from landing in less than 2 hours. I think that's a huge, huge, huge benefit, and that's actually one of the reasons I've recommended it. That, along with the fact that you've got all these different resorts to go to, and the variation of evening places to go as well. Because you can go, to go to Kaprun, then go to Zell am See. They're totally different vibes, but they're 10 minutes away.
Yeah.
And really nice places to go. Loads of different variation as well in the quality of hotels. If you go to Zermatt, there is no variation particularly. If you go to Courchevel, there's no variation, and even like Meribel, there's not that much variation either. To get a bit more variation, you've got to go up to like Val Thorens or something, where it's they've got like for the younger crowd, and then they've got some more expensive places. But yeah, it's such a great place to go. I think especially if you were going for like a Friday to a Monday, or even like a Monday to a Friday, because you get quite literally, I think, an additional whole day of skiing compared to if you went to pretty much anywhere in the Alps. Because I can't really think of that many places that are that close to the airport.
If you do an early flight on your way out and then you do a late flight on your way home, then for sure. I've known people, they've been on skis by 11:30, 12 on their arrival day, off skis at 3, straight to the airport, flying home at 7. So they've got that extra time. And again, in this email sequence, we talk about whether you should pros and cons of an early flight and pros and cons of a late flight.
Yeah, I think I read that one today. Actually, I think it was today. Oh no, I was reading transfers today. But I'll leave links to all of Andy's email things in the description and whatnot. But the other thing as well is with what was I going to say? Parking in the Austrian places that I've been to in the times that I've been there. So I can't, Andy, in fact, will be able to tell us, but I can't say for the whole season because I haven't been there for the whole season. But like Hintertux, I was there in April and May, and then October I was in Kitzsteinhorn. But on those days, you can literally take your car and you park 100 meters away from the lift. Like you could never do that in so many places that I've been to. If you went to Val d'Isère, you're going to struggle to park. Teens, you're going to struggle to park. Courchevel, you're going to struggle. Well, in fact, you're going to really struggle to park. Meribel, you're going to struggle to park. Like all these really nice, well-known places, very, very difficult to park. And I know not that many people maybe do take a car, but for those that do, like me, that's quite a massive benefit. Because when you go to the Kitzsteinhorn, you can literally just drive, and you're 150 meters from the lift.
Especially in October and November, if you're getting first lift at 8:15, you're going to be one of the first cars in the car park, so you can literally be next to the door of the lift station. Obviously, as the winter gets busier, it gets a little bit fuller, and you obviously they fill it from closest to the lift back. Now, when it does get really horrid is April, when everywhere else is closed, or Easter after Easter. If the snow everywhere else is bad, then you can be the furthest car park away and having to then get on the bus to take you to the lift.
Oh, really? Because of the glacier.
Yeah.
Yeah. But
so it can be a bit of a pain.
One of the other advantages as well is because when a lot of people say to me, because I've done a lot of skiing recently, they say, "Oh, I want to go skiing." They've always just been to the same place because of the complexity of understanding choosing where to go, how to, it's actually quite difficult. I've been lucky that I've been able to ask people, but not everyone can do that. And because they don't want to mess it up, they've just gone to the same place for the last 10 years and they've never been anywhere else.
Yeah.
So they say to me like, oh, give us a tip, like where should we go, blah, blah, blah. And it's always a good bit of advice, because it doesn't matter what weather they're going to have. It doesn't matter what time of the year they go. They always have the reliability of the glacier.
Yeah.
So that is a major, major, major positive. The cheap transport, because of how short it is and how close it is to the airport, and hiring cars and whatnot in Austria is actually quite cheap anyway, especially compared to France and Switzerland. So it's actually that, along with the sort of variation of places, makes it almost a bit of a easy answer for a place for people to go, because you can't, when you're giving someone advice, you could go quite wrong, couldn't you? Like if I said to someone, if they said to me, "Oh, we're going skiing at the end of March," and I said Morzine, they might have a problem. They might have
December, January, February, and March.
yeah, potentially, yeah. I actually, when I can't remember when I went there now, but I went to Leger, and that's obviously connected to Morzine, Avoriaz, and all that stuff. I can't remember when I went there. I think it was early December actually last year, and I took a video of Leger, and it was literally just mud with a snow strip down the middle of it, and it got like 2 million views, to the point where Leger themselves messaged me and queried like why I was putting this video up, blah blah blah, and I had loads of abuse for it. And I was like, I'm just showing people what it is. Like, don't get me wrong, I had a great day. I was quite happy to ski down the bit of snow that was there, and actually, they'd groomed it beautifully, and it didn't affect my skiing whatsoever. It was just the fact that actually, that's the way it looked. It was real. It wasn't, you're not making things up. And I think people deserve to at least know what they're getting in for. Because when I turned up and saw that, I was literally like, oh my God, like, why am I here? But actually, as it turned out, it was lovely, and they'd groomed it all, and it was absolutely perfect. You know how amazing they are at keeping these things intact, even when there's no snow. But when you headed over to Morzine from there, it was so slushy. That actually, oh no, sorry, it was March. It was beginning of March. It was so slushy that it was actually unskiable. I don't mind skiing in slush. I quite like it actually, but it was that bad that it was unskiable. And really, it should have been pretty decent there at that time of year, but it was absolutely horrific. But yeah, with having that ability to have the glacier up the top really does change that quite considerably. And even if you started off the day in, on the Maiskogel or in Zell or whatever it might be, that in the afternoons, even if you don't like slush, for example, you can just go up and spend the rest of the day up there. So I think it's quite a good resort to send your friends to without having to worry that you've totally screwed them over.
Yeah. If you just going back to you saying about your video there, and you were showing an honest representation of the conditions. So if you see, I do the snow reports on a Wednesday, and one of the things I do is I don't sugarcoat it. I'll tell you how the conditions are. Because if I'm going to stand on a video on YouTube and tell you the conditions are fantastic, 3 days later you turn up and it's a field, you're gonna call me out for it. You know what I mean? So I say it as it is, and there's somebody else that in this area that does their version of a snow report called Flake News. And quite often or not, they're giving the flake score of 9 or 10 on a day when it's 80k wind, the snow's going sideways, and it's as icy as that. And I'm not going to do it. I'm not going to say it's better than it is to get you to come here, because I don't need to. You know what I mean? I'll tell you how it is. Honest, truthful reflection of the conditions. If it's crap, I'll say it's crap.
Yeah, and that is that's something that people should watch actually, because if you're like me and you're always kind of looking for different good conditions, because I'd prefer to book things a bit more on the fly. I know a lot of people have to really book in the future and book their holiday and all that, but luckily I'm in a position where I can kind of go when the conditions are the best in each place. And Andy does a snow report every single week, telling you exactly what all of the conditions are, how deep the snow is, what weather's coming in, what parts of the resort are skiable, how busy it is, like all of that kind of stuff. So that is not only just interesting and entertaining throughout the winter, it sort of keeps your ski excitement on the highest level, but useful as well, because quite often whatever the weather is there, you can reflect that on the wider area as well. For a lot of the other places, they might be a little bit different, but they're pretty much going to be similar. And there's a few people that do it, actually. I don't know, do you ever watch there's a lady who does it in teens, Floss?
Yes.
You ever seen her? Yeah,
Yeah,
she's
I
really
have,
good.
yeah. Yeah. She does a few different things, doesn't she? Yeah.
Yeah, and then there's another guy called Chamonix Ski Bum. He does some in Chamonix as
Yeah.
well.
I saw him
But
before
see,
this year.
yeah, Chamonix is another place where you can really go wrong going to Chamonix, because unless you're really quite up high, it's a very low place, Chamonix, and you can be pretty disappointed going there. In fact, on the two occasions that I have gone there to ski, both of them I couldn't ski. One of them was right at the beginning of the season last year, and it was so windy that they couldn't open on the opening weekend. But I mean, this is just weather that happens; it's not their fault. And then when I went there right towards the end of last season, I think it was March sometime, most of it was shut because their snow had already gone. But if you are someone who is not as invested in it as I am, you would hear the word Chamonix, and because it's associated with advanced skiing, because some of it is pretty advanced skiing, you would automatically assume that would be quite a snowshore area. And you would also assume that it's very connected, and it's actually like the worst connected place you can ever go to. And wouldn't be particularly enjoyable for a lot of people, because if you want to go to a different resort, you can only really do it day by day, because it takes that long to get to each different one.
Yeah.
So it does show that you can really make quite big mistakes when you're choosing these things, because a lot of people like me, before I started skiing, I'd only ever heard of Chamonix. That was the only ski resort I'd ever heard of in my life. So you would presume that because it's so well known, it would be a really good choice to send people to or to go to, but actually not a good choice unless you definitely know it's good.
Yeah, it's well known for certain things, and it's not well known for being a good beginner intermediate ski area in Crystal Brochure. It's known
No,
for extreme skiing, steep couloirs, adventure, hiring a guide, etc., etc. And if anyone is looking to go to Chamonix for those things, I've got some contacts if anybody would need any. But yeah, that's the thing. Everyone does know of Chamonix. If you say Chamonix, everyone's heard of it. But they don't necessarily know what Chamonix is about.
no.
There's
And
quite a few
actually,
places like that. There's quite a few places like that.
yeah, and on the plus side of Chamonix, in my opinion, I think it's probably the second best ski town I've ever been to. Chamonix. I have Zermatt at the top, and then I have Chamonix for just that unreal, beautiful ski town. It is absolutely stunning. So there's a lot of positives to Chamonix as well. But that's what I was going to say as well, actually. When I did originally come over to see you, one of the things that made it easy was the fact that I could ask you questions, and you made it easy, because whenever I was going on a ski trip at that time, I was always super nervous because of the things I spoke about earlier, like travel, accommodation. Am I close? Because I know people that have been on a ski trip and they're half an hour away from the lifts,
Mm-hmm.
and they were told they were right
Yeah,
on
yeah,
it.
yeah,
That always made me nervous. But I sent you a series of emails, and you literally broke it down and made it so easy, and took all of the worry about it away. So if you are someone and you do want to go somewhere skiing, and you want to have it done so like nice and easily for you, Andy's great for that, because it took all the worry away. Whereas normally I'd have almost this like feeling in my gut when I was on my way to somewhere, like, have I done this right?
yeah,
Because
yeah,
I've always planned all of my own trips. I've never used a company for anything. I just like book the flights, hire a car or take my own car, book the train, or whatever is involved with it. I just book all of the individual things. And I think a lot of people like to do that because they like the choice and knowing exactly what they're going to get, but are too worried to do it because actually it's a lot more complicated than it should be.
yeah. And again, this is one of the things when we started Snow Camps Europe, and there's three elements of Snow Camps Europe really. There's the camps that we run, and the private ski tuition. So there's the ski instruction part of it. The ability to book your ski lessons, book your equipment, kind of all falls into that. And then there's the other part is this inbound travel agency. So we can organise your transfer from the airport. We can help you with your equipment hire. We can help you with accommodation. We don't book your accommodation. You still book it yourself, but we help with the process. So we're almost holding your hand along the way. And again, that email sequence we spoke about earlier is giving you some of the information. And then the third part of it is this free in-resort service. Now, the free in-resort service, when you go on a crystal holiday, there's normally a rep. But that rep, if you're there at Christmas, that rep's been there for 2 weeks. They don't know the area. They've been given notes from the person who was there the year before that gives them an idea of the resort. They go around in their first 2 weeks, they introduce themselves to people, they meet the hotel owners, they meet the bar owners, but they don't really know anyone or anything other than what they've learned in them 2 weeks. So therefore, if our free and resort service was to almost supersede your crystal rep, because I used to work with the crystal reps, and I could see that there was a massive lack of knowledge and understanding of the area. So I said, right, we're going to do a free and resort service. Anybody prior to, during or after can contact me, whether you book anything with me or not, and ask me a question. You can ring me at 10 o'clock if you need to get to the doctors. You can message me if you need to get to a chemist, or you've lost something, you need to get a police report filed. All within the free in resort service. Prior, send me questions. Andy, if I stay in this hotel, is it at the top of the hill? Is it at the bottom of the hill? Is it close to the lift? Is it near the bus stop? Because we can all look on Google Maps now, and you can all pinpoint where it is, but you don't necessarily know, does the bus go up that street? Is it on a steep hill? Is it the top, the bottom, the middle of that hill? Because the map's flat, right? And when a brochure says, in an elevated position with beautiful views, it means up the top of a steep hill.
Yeah.
Right? So elevated position, top of steep hill. Can I get up there in a bus after 7 o'clock after après? No. Well, you don't want to stay there then. You know? And there are places, if you stay at the Daxa at the top of Schmittenhofstrasse in Zell, which is a fantastic hotel, loads of people I know stay there over and over and over again. It's perfect for the lift. But if you want to go down to Zell and après ski and then come back at 8 o'clock, you're in a taxi, which isn't cheap because it's a long road. You ain't going to want to walk it because it is very long and very steep. And the buses stop at about 6. Now,
Yeah.
you know, Crystal's brochure will say, is it on the bus route? Yes. Is it close to après? Yes, because it is close to some après. But it's not close to the après down in the village where you want to be, or on New Year's Eve when you want to go to the concert. You know, and therefore I was like, right, I'm gonna give my, and at the time my knowledge of Kaprun would have been 7 years, I think. I'm gonna give my 7 years worth of knowledge of living here to people for free. Yeah, and I still do that for free, and people can email me, they can ring me, they can do whatever they want. I will answer every single email personally with anything you need, and that is one of the things that has really helped me build snow camps as well, because like yourself, you contacted me and asked me a couple of questions. I gave you some honest answers. You then asked me some other questions. What about hire car? What about place to stay? Blah, 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 blah. Then you came and skied with me for a day. You know what I mean?
Yeah. Yeah, no, it does make life so much easier, because it is a real worry. You know, for a lot of people, their ski trip is their most expensive outlay of the year.
Yep.
You know, they're taking time off work. Sometimes they're even having a break from the children, maybe, or bringing their children with them, whatever it might be. They're big decisions that you can get very, very, very wrong. Like when I book most of my hotels on booking.com, and even the amount of places that I've been to, even the one I went into Hintertux recently, it said ski in, ski out, and it also said it was 20 yards from the lift. So you see that, and you try and look into it on Google Maps, and you read the reviews and all this stuff, and it kind of looks okay. But actually, when you turn up, it's not ski in, ski out at all. You're like a kilometre away from ski in, ski out. But not only that, the reason they tell you it's that close to the lift is because it's that close to the bus stop that goes to the lift. Do you know what I mean? Like that's how they kind of get around a lot of these things. So, and the other thing is as well, like with Kaprun, for example, you might want to book an early trip there, and the hotel is ski out, but there's no snow there yet.
No.
So it's important to be able to get these real life answers for sure, and that's why I think that about 6 people I've sent there recently, because I sent Jodie and Chris over a little while ago. They came to see you, I didn't know, I think. And then actually, I sent a family of 4 over there. They've been skiing all their lives, but they've only ever been to one resort. They've been skiing literally since their children were babies. Only ever been to one ever resort. And after I got back from Kaprun, I said, go to Kaprun. I said, it's easy. It's so easy. I explained it all to them. They went there. And now actually this year in, when did I talk to them? This year they're going there in January again, because they loved it so much. And actually the reason they loved it was because they're with the children and the travel. They said normally they're on a train for 3 hours, they're doing this, they're in a car, like it's not enjoyable for the children, but the kids loved it because they literally got off the plane and they didn't have to wait through customs, sounds nothing, but actually it's quite a big deal when you've got like children. And within an hour and a bit, they were literally in resort. Kids were playing in the snow. They were having a drink, and life was good. Whereas if you did that to the Three Valleys, it is not that situation at all. And I love the Three Valleys. Don't get me wrong; it's a place for it. But just talking about the pros and cons, it makes a lot of sense to have somewhere like that. And Hintertux is the same setup. It's literally just over an hour and 10 minutes from Innsbruck to Hintertux. And actually, by the time you get to Hintertux, you've already gone through about 5 or 6 other ski resorts that are even closer, that are all part of the one ticket, much like it is in Kaprun. So it's quite it's almost like an underappreciated place of skiing, I feel, Austria. I know you get the big ones where they do the races and they're a bit more well known, and maybe even actually over known because they get super busy, don't they, those places? But whereas the Kaprun ticket and the Zillertal ticket, they're quite under appreciated, really, considering the quality of what you're going to get. And obviously you've got the Hintertux Glacier and you've got the Kitzsteinhorn Glacier as well. I think really, really good places for people to go. And obviously with the ability to be able to talk to you, not only to just find out exactly what's going on and where the best places to go is and all that kind of stuff, but also obviously for the training as well. If you haven't skied for a year and you want a day, getting back into it and getting you up and running so you can better enjoy the ski trip, which is my number one piece of advice to everyone, actually. Whenever anyone asks me, I've never been skiing before and I want to go skiing, what shall I do? The first thing I say to them is learn how to ski before you go. And then when you get there, your first full day, you hire someone good to take you around. They don't even have to teach you, but someone who is going to just show you where to ski, how to ski, where to get lunch, where to get your stuff. Like these things can set the rest of your trip up to be 10 times better than it would be otherwise. Do you know what I mean? Because if you rock up and you've never skied before and you go to a terrible school and you hire your gear from a terrible place, your whole trip can literally be completely ruined and you never go skiing again. Whereas actually, if you just flip those things the opposite way round, go to the dry slope a few weeks before, go to the snow dome, whatever it is that's available to you, and just invest a little bit before so you can rock up. Even if you can only do blues, go straight onto a blue with an instructor who's actually going to get you up and running and help and understand. Also, not necessarily to just spend the whole day teaching you, but also trying to help you have a good time, because there's that as well. It can change the whole trip massively.
So just going back to those people that have been to the same resort time and time after again, I've got people who've been here 13 years in advance, who I met in my first season, who've come back and back and back and back. People like familiarity. They do like familiarity. They like that they've found a hotel that they're happy with. They like the fact that it's They've found a transfer that they're happy with. They've found a ski school or a ski instructor they're happy with. They like that kind of comfort. And a lot of people are then a little bit wary of going to the places. And I did it myself when I was skiing as a tourist. I skied several times in Sol on the bounce. I did several different holidays in Sheffield on the bounce. I did several in the Dolomites on the bounce. But then there are other people who are a bit more adventurous that will do it every year. They'll go to a different place and they'll never go back, whether it was the best time they've ever had or not. But then going back to what you were saying more recently there about that, finding a ski instructor and one that's going to not just be drill all day long. It's a lot harder than people imagine. And again, in the 30-day email sequence, we cover off a lot of what you've just said there about the crap ski hire, the good ski hire, the location of accommodation, and how to get a good ski instructor. Too many people go into ski school and say, can I book a private lesson? And the ski school say, yes. Would you like 2 hours or 4 hours? Oh, 4 hours, please. Okay. When's it for? Tomorrow. Okay. And they look at a list and they literally give you the next name that's on the list.
Yeah.
That could be a 3-week qualified 18-year-old party animal, or it could be a same level qualification who's done 32 seasons, who's extremely experienced, very good skier, very good teacher, understands biometrics, understands psychology and whatever. Or it could be a higher level teacher, but you're at the mercy of the list and it's potluck. And with the email series and on a lot of the podcasts and a lot of the blogs on the website, I always say, you want to either in advance contact the ski school, or when you walk in, say, I am an intermediate skier. I know I sit back. I struggle when it gets steep and I start to pick up speed. I would like a ski teacher that's going to work with me for a 4-hour private and at the same time take me somewhere nice for lunch, tell me a little bit about the area, and then is going to come along to après ski with me, right? If that's what you want. And then if they don't give you that, you can go back to them and say, listen, this is what I asked for. I particularly asked you to sell me this, because that's what they're doing. They're selling you a ski teacher, and you didn't do it. But if they did do it, you haven't put yourself at the risk of getting someone off the list. You know?
Yeah.
You don't walk into a car showroom and say, can I have a car? You know what I mean? You say, I want 1.6, I want 18-inch alloys, I want metallic paint, I want ISOFIX. You know, it's the same. Don't go and buy a ski lesson. Request a specific teacher. You know?
Yeah. The problem is though with that, the problem is with that is if you go to like a huge place, you know, like say for example you went to like ESF in Alpe d'Huez where they've literally got, I don't even know, 500 instructors, something like that. Yeah. You could walk in there, have that whole conversation, and she's still picking the first available person
you've got a bit of comeback, haven't you? Then if your lesson's crap,
yeah.
If they sat there, if they didn't get on the lift with you and they sat on the lift behind you on their phone all lesson long, you got a bit of comeback because at the end of the day, you've still got consumer rights. You know what I mean?
Yeah. One thing I've found about ski instructors is because I've been quite fortunate because I've had quite a few. When we first started, when we would go to a resort, first of all, we wouldn't even ski without an instructor because we were that bad. We didn't understand how the lifts worked. We could only go on very specific slopes. So every day we would almost have someone with us, like quite a lot in quite a few different places. And at first, all I did was go on to ESF or whatever and find a ski instructor, and that's how we did it. But then as time's gone on, I've worked out to contact people and work with people who are passionate about what they do, because you can pretty much guarantee, like yourself, if someone's making YouTube videos, or they've got a very up-to-date social media with tutorials, whatever it is, whether you agree with them, whether you like them, whether they're right or wrong is irrelevant. One thing you can absolutely guarantee is they are passionate about what they're doing. They're into it. You know, they're not just there to make money. They actually really enjoy it. They want to do something around that job. They want to talk about it. They want to help. You know, that's one of the good things about picking people who have some sort of regular update on social media. And that's kind of the route I went down, which is actually how I found Jason, because obviously he does a lot of that.
Yeah.
And Steve as well, Steve over in Zermatt. You know, all these people were all, and yourself, were all because you have an online presence. And that to me, like if I was getting an extension done or a garden, if you find a gardener that's making YouTube videos about his gardening, I'll guarantee you he's deeply into his job.
Yeah.
If you find a car detailer that's got a YouTube channel, I'll guarantee you he's proper into his job. He's not just there to make some money and go home at 5 o'clock. He loves it. He's passionate about it. And you can relate that, I find, to most things. Now, there's obviously like variations with it and there's pros and cons, but for the most part, at least you get somebody who's super driven and passionate about their job. And to me, that overrides everything. When you go to like ESF or any of these places, they go home at 5 o'clock. They don't want to think about skiing anymore. They're not massively into it. It's their job, you know, and I don't think everybody should be, because there's not space for that, which is fine. But one thing I found about ski instructors is that they're a little bit like modern cars. You know, like now, if it wouldn't matter what car you bought, they're all good.
Yeah.
Like there's no shit car. It's like skis as well, isn't it? You don't matter whether you get some of the expensive skis or they're all good. They're all good. There's no shit ones anymore. Like you might get one that is shit for you, but for the most part, if you put the appropriate one, whether they're cheap or expensive, on the right person, they're great. And actually, ski instructors are kind of similar. There's no like really awful one. I'm sure there is, but I've never come across them. But what you can do is get the wrong one for the wrong situation quite badly. And we've had that a few times in the early days where we made mistakes with this stuff, where you would be looking for a particular thing and you got something completely the opposite. And in fact, one of the big ones we came across was we went to Zermatt. I think it was the second time I'd ever been there or something, and it was in the summer-ish months. Luckily, that everything was open. It was ridiculous. It was like May. There was powder everywhere. It was unreal. So we were skiing all the way to Chamonix, and it was incredible. But we got some ski instructors, different ones day by day, and they were all Italian. And I'd been watching like yourself, Steve, Jason, who all, regardless of the system, it's all pretty much the same, give or take. You know, the way you, your position, your stance, your outside leg, all these different things. Start turning with the legs, not the body. All these things are all the same, aren't they, across all the systems? But the Italians, not so much, because these guys, they are basically move your body, and then your skis will follow. So I'd been really deep into technique with listening to people who teach people like the correct way, and really bought into that whole idea of the turn starts with the feet, outside ski, all this stuff. And then we had all these Italian instructors, and they're like, no, you don't do it like that. Like, turn your body and your skis will follow. It's much better. And when you watch them ski, they look incredible. Like, they don't look bad. They look absolutely unreal. But it's totally contrary to the system that I wanted to learn, that I believe is the right way. And then all of a sudden it starts asking all these questions in your brain. Oh, actually, so who is right then? Because this guy looked unreal. But he's telling me something completely opposite to someone else that also looked incredible. So you do have to be quite careful with that stuff. And then you get a guy that's 60 years old from France, and he's teaching you something absolutely completely different, which can be confusing. Whereas if you go to someone like Steve's school, Connect, where it's not a big school, but he's got, I don't know, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 instructors. They all spend a significant amount of time beginning of the season, mid-season, end season, making sure that everybody is coming from the same hymn sheet. Whereas the 500 ESF instructors in Alpe d'Huez definitely don't do that. And it can be confusing, because imagine you start skiing, you've done, like, let's say you've done 5 days on a dry ski slope. You can ski now a little bit, and you go and you get a 50-year-old Italian instructor on day one. Then you get a 21-year-old English instructor on day 2. Then you get a 60-year-old French instructor on day 3. You're going to literally think, you're going to not know where you're coming from. So a little bit of consistency and looking into that side of it can do you a huge favour in terms of being able to progress a little bit better as well.
The systems are slightly different. The outcome is typically always the same. But you'll get things like, you look at the Australians and people are like, why are all the Australians on slalom skis and they only do short turns? It's because in Australia the runs are narrow and short. So they want to do as many turns as they can on a short run. You know, it doesn't mean they can't ski on a GS ski when the terrain is more appropriate, but that's why most of them are skiing on short skis. Doesn't mean it's right, doesn't mean it's wrong. The Austrian system is very much rooted in an up forward and an up forward inward movement. We've now moved away from that because skiing has evolved and the Austrian system hasn't evolved as fast. So we are now get rid of the vertical movement, lateral extension of the leg, and then, as you say, your Italians want you to turn with your body. The thing that matters is what is the snow ski interaction.
Yeah.
If the interaction of the ski with the snow is what you are aiming for, so if you're aiming to slide, is the ski sliding? Yes, you've achieved it. If you're aiming to edge or carve, okay, carve. If the ski is carving 2 tracks, the interaction of the ski with the snow says that whatever you're doing in that chain is working. Yeah. The Austrian system, and we had this conversation in this very room when you were here. The Austrian system talked a lot about this sideways bend, this alpine basic position, which they almost force you into. If you actually extend the legs and you're weighted on the outside ski, that position is created. It's a byproduct.
Yeah.
Different systems explain it in different ways, you know, but the outcome is typically always the same.
Yeah.
It's about going down a hill, going left and right in control. And that can be a slid control, a carved control, a slid and carved control. It can be with an up movement. It can be with no movement. It can be with a turn of the shoulder. You know, it's what is the ski doing? And if the ski's doing the right thing, you're doing the right thing. Yeah.
Yeah. But one of the things I found very confusing when I first got started was different information from different people, that none of them were wrong. But because you're here, some things are contradictory to one another. It makes you ask too many questions yourself. Because actually, do you know, one thing that I've found getting all this way through it is actually my last instructor, actually from the IASY course, Scott, he said, what was it? Look, pressure, turn. I think that was it, how he broke it down. He was basically look, pressure, turn. And actually, do you know what? That's really a lot of what you need to know from the beginning. And I've gone through this cycle of getting so heavily involved in all of the like ridiculous details. And actually, the more I've gone into it, even with Gary as well, is actually brought it all back to some very, very simplistic things. But I don't really think that was my fault. I think that was booking the wrong instructors who weren't bad, but weren't what I was needing at the time. Do you know what I mean? So I think it's super important to, if you actually are looking to progress your skills specifically, to have that in your mind when you're booking your instructor. If you just want a guide, or you just want a few little tips and tricks, that's one thing. But if you're looking like I was to really take every single word that someone says and try and become a better skier, which maybe I'm unusual for that, then it's super important that you pick like exactly the right people for the right job. Because like I said, none of them are bad, but you can have a great teacher who doesn't tell you the right things at the right time. And I think picking the right instructor, especially when you're going to somewhere new, is super, super, super important to get the most out of it. And if you're going on a ski trip, I always think if you're going for like 4 or 5 days, rather than trying to work everything out for yourself, you can literally turn that 5-day ski trip almost into a longer, more enjoyable trip just by spending the first day with someone who truly knows the area and also who can get you up and running quickly. Because if you haven't skied, like most people haven't skied for God knows how long before they go skiing, you really need to have the ability to get you up and running super quick and get you enjoying it as quick as possible. Whereas I think if you hadn't skied for a long time and you went on your own, you're kind of thinking in your head, like, what have I got to do? How am I going to do this? What do I need to remember? You almost waste X number of days getting back to where you need to be.
You never ski on your first day as well as you did on the last day of your last ski trip.
Yeah,
Whether that last
exactly.
ski trip was 4 weeks ago, 6 months ago, or a year ago. Your first day, you'll never ski as well as you did on the last day of your ski trip. And again, I think in that email sequence, we've got one of these where we say day one, you'll be getting your legs back. Day two, it starts feeling familiar. By day three, you're skiing your best. By day four, you might be starting to get fatigued and you're not skiing as well as you think you should be. Then you start to get annoyed with yourself, and that impacts the next day. Yeah. And we always say, if people are taking a week of ski school, I'm talking about beginners to low advanced skiers, they always implode on the Wednesday. First day, you get your legs back. Second day, you're feeling confident. You go and have a little bit of après ski. Next day, you have a great day. You have a bit more après ski. The next day, you implode. You have dinner and go to bed, right?
Yeah.
And it's just the cycle. It's the cycle of a week of skiing. That's how it goes.
Yeah.
That's how it is. And also, if you are having a week of coaching, you can get overcoached. You can be given too much information and you can get overload, and then you start to get confused. And again, another social media thing is really good, but you've also got to be careful because there are some people on social media who would appear to know what they're talking about, but are actually talking a load of rubbish. And
Yeah.
one of the first podcasts we did when me and Wouter restarted the podcast again was Wouter's top 5 and worst 5 Instagram accounts. And obviously Gary was in there on the top 5. Killy over in Switzerland was in the top 5.
Oh, he's unreal. He's absolutely unreal.
He's a freak.
Yeah.
He's a
And
freak.
you know, actually, I'm actually going to ski with him this year in
Wicked.
yeah, because he's absolutely unreal. And I always think to myself, you know, people like that, you're only going to take a couple of things from them, and it's going to really, you know, up your game or your knowledge at least.
Yeah.
But Gary was a very, very. He wasn't just an amazing skier, because when you watch him ski, he's on that level with not quite that guy, because he's one of a million, but he's very much of that very top echelon of people that I've ever seen skiing.
Yeah.
But his teaching is he's really very, very good. He's so good, because what he does as well, which I love, is he recognises that skiing is enjoyable, and yes, you want to learn and add things into your skiing, but you want to ski.
Yeah.
So he's literally like blast you with this little bit of information, and then you're off again. Which is such a quite like a unique way to do it. Don't get me wrong, you wouldn't. It is exhausting, that guy, like absolutely like exhausting. But he's the way he puts things across, and his enthusiasm, passion, energy, and the way that he recognizes when to ski, when to talk, when you've had enough of listening, when you're tired. That is a real expert, like experienced skier, and that's a pattern that you talked about earlier, where you know you have you know, you get your legs back, blah blah blah. You go through it. I always say to everyone that goes, I'm like, if you have that really good instructor on day one, you can avoid all of that, because he will literally at the end of that day that he has with you, he'll say to you, look, don't ski 8 hours a day every day this week. You know, take your time. Have a few hours, have a good break, have a 2-hour lunch break, go walk around, do something else. You know, he might say to you, you've got the wrong skis. I mean, that could be gold dust, couldn't it? Absolute gold dust.
Too big. Your boots are too big.
Yeah, even something like that. Or, you know, they in that one day, I know, like, if I sent one of my friends to you for a day, I know that the rest of their week, those things aren't going to happen, because all those things they're going to work out on day one, you know. And also you're going to say to them, look, don't go up to the glacier on Wednesday. The weather's going to be shit, and that means that they're not going to lose all their confidence halfway through the week because they've had bad weather. You know, these things that happen on day one I think are so priceless, because a lot of the time people say, oh, but I haven't got the money, blah, blah, blah. And I'm like, listen, you're spending however many thousands on this ski trip. This extra few hundred is almost like doubling your enjoyment for your money. Like, you must get someone good on your first day to help you make the most of the rest of your week. Do you know what I mean? Because it's not like a beach holiday where every day is the same.
Yeah, you're definitely right, definitely right. Unfortunately, I'm going to need to shift on, fella.
Yeah, I've got to
Because
head off soon. But before you go, so Andy's got his YouTube channel, podcast, Facebook, all of those things, and you can search Snow Camps Europe, and obviously you'll find it. And I think it would be fair to say that you're probably the most consistent person to do with skiing throughout the whole of YouTube, because you don't only do things for a couple of months in the winter and then completely go out of existence. You know, you have things going on all year round. So it's a great place to get your ski fix, get all your little tidbits of information. And obviously, if you do want to get some amazing training or do a camp or any of these things, Andy's the best person to go to for all of that stuff. And yeah, head over to his channel, check out all of that stuff, and hopefully you head over there and have a good time, because I'll definitely be going back this year for sure.
YouTube now, I think, is up to 650 videos. Obviously,
Wow.
a lot of them are the snow reports, the historic snow reports. We've got some tutorial stuff. There's general vlogs on there. There's some funny stuff. There's obviously the podcast that I did for 2 years with Paul Simpson. There's the podcast we're now doing with Wouter, where we talk about all different stuff. On the website, I think there's about 50 different blogs, and it's not just about skiing. It can be about different coffee in Austria. It can be about transport. There's all sorts on there. As I say, these email sequences that we've started for this summer to give people stuff to keep them infused and almost training at home. So there's the 3 of them. Everybody get on board with the 30 tips in 30 days, and then the how to plan your ski holiday, because there is a lot of what we've just spoken about how to make your holiday better is in them emails.
Yeah.
And
the nice thing is as well, they're super short. They're not
whole 2 minute, most of them 2 minute reads, and some are now 7 minute reads. But I don't believe anyone else is doing it. I don't believe anyone's giving that information and that value. And as I said, you don't have to book anything. I'm not going to try and take your money. I'm doing it because I want you to have a better time. Whether you're going to Bulgaria, Andorra, don't go to France.
No.
If you do go to France, then I told you so. Even if you're going to America, Canada, this is across the board information, and I just want you to have it so you have a better time. I wish I had it when I was going skiing, you know. But yeah, head over to all of the socials and
people can book individual one-to-ones with you as well, can't they? In you know, the Kaprun area.
Yeah, I can be booked for private lessons. Obviously, I've got a team of teachers that I will if you want to ski with somebody and I'm booked, I will hand pick a teacher for you based on your unique needs. We've got the camps. We've also got group ski lessons. If you're a beginner and you just want to go to a group lesson, and in my opinion, beginner group lessons are some of the best ski lessons you'll ever have, because it's very social. You'll learn to ski at a slower pace, so you don't get as tired. Beginner private lessons can be quite fatiguing, depending on your fitness and your ability level, your athleticism. So people can book all plethora of lessons. We can take look after your equipment hire, as I said, transfers, accommodation. I'll book your restaurants for you. I've got a group of 17 Americans. They've asked me for 5 different restaurants over 5 different nights. So I'm booking all their restaurants for them. And it's all free. If you book your equipment with me, I don't charge you extra. I just manage the booking for you.
Yeah, amazing. Oh, that's amazing. Yeah, thanks, Andy. I appreciate that. Yeah, I'd recommend it to anyone. I'm going to leave all the links, obviously, down below. And yeah, hopefully we can do a video in person in Kaprun or something later this season. Yeah, I'm definitely going to come over and do the glacier tour. I think in October.
Yeah, I saw that on the podcast.
If there's snow. and obviously I'll come to Kitzsteinhorn as one of those.
Yeah.
So hopefully I'll see you then. But thanks for your time, Andy. Massively appreciate. Oh, do you know what? Remember I said the ski resort in France over a lake, Le Clousaz over Lake Annecy.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
It took me an hour. That's how old I am. But yeah, thanks a lot, Andy. Yeah, top guy. Thank you very much. Appreciate that, mate. Have a good one. Take care.
Bye.
See you, mate.